Art has always fascinated me because it's so subjective. You can say so many different, profound things with one image. But there are some objective truths behind these famous paintings, why they look the way they do. So, hello, welcome to Nerdy and Quirky. Here's some cool history. Let's talk about the internet's most tragic fave, Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, or Van Flemnoys. I don't know anymore. One of his most famous pieces is the Starry Night. The painting seems to be a composite of a few different things. In the foreground, there's a cypress tree, which is often associated with cemeteries and mourning. In the distance is a city which could either be Saint-Rémy or a place inspired by Van Gogh's memory of the Netherlands. All of this is set in a landscape that mimics his view from outside his window in St. Paul Asylum in Saint-Rémy-du-Provence. And looming above it all is that titular sky with Van Gogh's famous halos swirling around the stars. Now, he has always been a fan of yellow, whether it's because his vision was literally tainted due to the overconsumption of absinthe or digitalis, or he just liked the color. But those halos may have actually been how he viewed the world. You see, Van Gogh is famous for eating, or trying to eat paint, not because he thought he was ingesting happiness, but because he wanted to kill himself. He was not a happy guy. And lead is not a good snack. Symptoms of lead poisoning include abdominal pains, mood disorders, and swollen retinas. This can cause a halo to appear around lights, not unlike the effect in the Starry Night. Then there's American Gothic by Grant Wood, which is, listen, his name is Grant Wood. I'm 12 and extremely amused. Anyway, the painting was inspired by a real house, the Dibble House in Eldon, Iowa, specifically that window that Wood just thought looked so ridiculous, this pretentious church-like window on this flimsy cardboard house. He wanted to paint the people you'd find in such a home, and for his models he chose his sister and his dentist. Weird choice, right? Dentist? Well, the thing is, Grant Wood and Dr. Byron McKeeby may have actually been on pretty familiar terms, since Wood was a sugar addict. Beyond coffee and cakes, he'd sprinkle it on lettuce and tomatoes. And side note, as for that window he made so much fun of, it may have actually been pretty practical for moving large pieces of furniture. It was a wide opening that could be used instead of the narrow stairs indoors. You know, when pivoting wouldn't work. Pivot! But now let's pivot into sponsor time. This video was brought to you in part by Zoetic, a sweet new YouTube channel that takes an honest look at the most curious parts of our world and shares it with you. From the connections between skyscrapers and economic crises to emojis, my favorite language, they make new videos every Thursday, and if you like cool history, you are going to love Zoetic. So pop by their channel, link in the description, and tell them I sent you. Alright, back to the video. Finally, my primary emotion, let's talk Edvard Munch's The Scream. Or maybe you should call it The Screams, because there are 4 to 5 versions floating around. There's the most famous 1893 tempera on cardboard, along with the 1893 crayon on cardboard, then the most expensive 1895 pastel on cardboard, and the lithograph prints from the same year. And finally, in 1910, there's the second Scream with tempera on cardboard. Basically, there's a lot of screaming. Now, there are 3 interesting aspects to this picture: the perspective, the screamer, and the sky. So the painting is a composite of 2 perspectives on Ekeberg Hill in Oslo, Norway. The foreground along the road, and the background from a cliff 420 feet above. Now, the screamer may just be a really anguished emoji, or it may have been inspired by a Peruvian mummy that was a part of the 1889 World's Fair in Paris. It wouldn't be strange since this mummy served as a model in Paul Gauguin's Where Do We Come From? What Are We? Where Are We Going? A title I can only imagine he came up with on a road trip. But finally, the sky. A really vibrant blood orange. Okay. It's f***ing red. So on the 1895 pastel version, Munch etched a poem on the frame. It goes, I was walking along the road with 2 friends. The sun was setting, the sky turned blood red, and I felt a wave of sadness. I paused, tired to death. Above the blue-black fjord and city blood and flaming tongues hovered. My friends walked on. I stayed behind, quaking with angst. I felt the great scream in nature. Pushing aside the emo lyrics, it would seem that the sky was the result of a normal setting sun, but there exist sketches of the scream from 1885 onward, and there's something very interesting that occurred during that time: the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. Now, this was not some boring explosion. Krakatoa in Indonesia killed more than 36,000 people. It caused tsunamis whose remnants were felt all the way in the English Channel. It caused earthquakes that reached Australia, and it shot so much volcanic ash into the sky that its effects lingered for a few years. One interesting effect was a color shift. The ash clouds darkened the sky, and all around the world, sunsets from East Coast America to Britain to Norway became a vibrant, vivid red, and it's possible that this is the sunset that Munch saw while walking with his friends. Red like blood and fire, and in it, he heard a scream. Well, that was just some cool history on famous paintings. Now, what about you guys? What is your favorite piece of art? Tell me down below. My favorite is your face. If you enjoyed this episode or you just want to support the show, consider hitting like, share, and subscribe. But either way, have a lovely day. Don't forget to check out Zoetic. I recommend this video about the danger of light, or if you want some cool history on famous paintings that were destroyed, check out this video. Both a great time. What? Don't know what that voice was.